Part two.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what do you have on your agenda?
I mean, I was going to tell you, with everything going on in the world, I feel like it makes me sad
Oh,
because I relate to it in this way, and it's going to sound odd at first, but just hear me out. Like when I went to Afghanistan,
mhm,
we're there, and there was like this mixture of people, and everyone was normally nice to your face.
mhm.
The locals would come and because they're wanting something or whatever, but then at the same time, you're like in your mind, like, does this person hate me?
Mhm.
So I feel like for you to have to experience that here at home
Mhm.
is just something, as you being my friend, really bothers me
Yeah.
because
He's gonna make me cry.
I mean I'm not trying to make you cry. It's just like
No, it's
it's
just
just
hey, I'm emotional lately,
I mean, and then that's really how I
and
feel about
especially
it. I'm
these
like
topics.
this has to suck for him because for me it was in Afghanistan. It was in another country, so it's like yeah, but you're
You
here.
almost expect that.
Yeah, and you're here walking around with that, and you just never know if somebody genuinely is being real with you. Like that, the
Hmm.
burden is just to me is
Oh, I deal with it every day.
yeah, and that
Every day. I mean, this is no exaggeration. I've had guys specifically walk into the shop to get a haircut. And as soon as I would turn and say, well, I'm busy at the moment if you want to come back in a couple hours or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And I've seen them go, give me the up down look. And they'll be like, okay, thanks, and walk out. Because right away they're like, oh, I don't want that fag touching me. I'm like, don't flatter yourself, motherfucker. First and foremost, your dick ain't lined in gold, okay? And what always surprised me is, no offense, but with many straight men I have encountered throughout the years, it was just that they just assume automatically, well, if you're gay and because I have a penis, well, you'll want me. Bitch, please. We are particular too, even amongst ourselves. So that shit doesn't fly with me at all. I'm just, the first thing out of my mouth is don't flatter
it's
yourself.
so weird that there's such a almost like a I don't want to say primitive because it's
It is.
but a
No, it's
primitive
primitive.
like mindset about those kind of things where somebody
Yeah.
is like somebody's like oh because he's gay
Oh,
he wants to fuck like
right.
it's like
I've often, like meeting you.
yeah
Like the first time I was like, oh goddamn, he's cute.
right
I mean, I'm always,
flattered
honey. I'm always, as we call, rubbernecking, honey. I'm like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that one. You know what I
right.
mean? It's just nature, just like a bunch of young teenage girls would be. We're very much like that in that sense.
Everyone is
Everyone
whether they want
is.
to admit it or not.
Right.
Visually,
Yeah.
it's one of the first things.
We all go on visual.
It's what we're attracted to, and not just people, houses, car, anything you
Anything.
do is visual. You're stimulated.
And
visually.
men are the worst. Men
Oh.
are much more.
Yeah.
When it comes to anything on the romantic side, that much I know because women want to hear the right things to get to that point, not just, oh, you're hot, let's do it.
Right.
It doesn't work that way for everyone. But yeah, and it is sad, especially now at my age. And I say all the time, I feel like I've lived many lives. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Since my teens to where I'm at now. Sometimes I'll admit, I'm amazed I'm even still alive that I survived AIDS. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In Ohio, Frank and I, my best friend here, and his partner Chris, I mean, they've been together 27 years. God bless them,
Right.
But Frank and I specifically will talk about, because we go back 43 years now of friendship. Oh, yeah. Before he met Chris, for almost 15 years. Me and that bitch was tearing the clubs up, honey, and we were in all the pageants and traveling and doing drag full time and all that bullshit. So It's so sad that so many people that we lost as friends and acquaintances and everything else along the way and living through that, and that we'll look at each other now sometimes and just bust out laughing, bitch, can you believe we're still here? It's that kind
Right.
of camaraderie because we've always been like brothers. There was never anything in a sexual way. From the time we met, we were immediately, I remember we were in one of the hole in the wall bars in town getting drunk in the middle of the afternoon, and somebody, a local lunatic that everybody knew the bitch was crazy, come waltzing in, and we didn't know each other from Adam, and we looked at each other and went, whoa, bitch, get a load of her, and from that point
Right.
on it was like click.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it does. Living through all of that, and then being with my what I thought would be my life partner, which I still carry with me. I mean, 17 years we were
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
From high school.
That is a lifetime.
We were dating
Yeah.
in high school, but
Yeah.
and people say, "Oh, it must have been so hard back then." No, it wasn't. You didn't have social media.
This is true.
You didn't
Yeah.
have all that bullshit. Either people liked you or they didn't.
Right.
And there's been violence to every, aspect of life. Blacks, Latino, gay, drag, trans are the most targeted. It's the most horrible thing. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I never experienced that in the same way. Now, I've been called fag so many times, but my immediate response was, and your point
Right.
is that's the best you got? Hello, that's no secret. Hi, I'm the gay one over here. So it's not like you have to, come on. Give me
Yeah.
something worth arguing about. But nowadays, what I see, and that was the thing back then, and maybe because of growing up even though it was Cleveland, Ohio, it was still a big ass city, and I was always a city dweller and worked most of my adult life in downtown Cleveland. Had tons of friends, all that stuff, always in the clubs and all that shit. So really, none of that kind of stuff affected me like people in smaller towns and gay people that were still trying to hide who they were. Because I knew, I will say, from the time I was that big, I couldn't hide nothing. But
Well,
I didn't
I
give
mean-
a shit.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, even with my mom, I have to say, when she, like, all of a sudden played like, I don't understand. Girl, stop. You knew it. You always knew. You just didn't want to accept it. And she was old school South,
Yeah.
and in her latter 40s, 50s by then, by the time I was in my younger teens. So what I understood and we talked about after the fact was just that it was her fear of how the world was going to perceive me and treat me from a mother's
Right.
perspective.
Right. Yeah.
And I
protective,
always,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
the mama bear. So I always understood that. But I was like, girl, you were the one that gave me the tool belt and the tools along the way and kicked my ass and pushed me to be the person I am. And I'm grateful and will always love you for that, because without you, I don't know who I might have been. And it was just innate in her
Right.
because she raised my brother and sister that way. To
Yeah.
be who they were no matter what. And when we had our big blow up, like I've told that story 1,000,001 times, I said it
Yeah,
earlier
yeah.
when she was like, what are you saying? You're gay? When I was 14, I was like, where in the hell have you been? I got right in her face. I was
Yeah.
like, what? Like, this is even a question, girl? I thought we were past
Yeah.
that 5-6 years ago. So I understood how it upset her to hear it directly and say, yes, I have to accept that this is who he is. But then we became the best of friends. We were friends as well as mother and son. Because then she was, and she'd still, when she was still drinking and stuff, she'd be like, says in the Bible, y'all are going to hell. And I'd be like, well, guess what, girl? You're going to be sitting right there next to me because you got a mouth on you that would shock a truck driver. And you can outdrink me and smoke a carton of cigarettes a week and talk about everybody else in your life. Bitch, please.
That is a theme that I've seen so much, and at home where I'm from is you have these people who are like, oh, the Bible says this and you shouldn't do this. Those are the same people that are normally going out doing
Doing the dirty
shit.
work.
Yeah,
I mean,
And-
let's face it,
yeah.
it's like the Republicans talking about gay people, but meanwhile, they're in a public bathroom tapping their toe, trying to
Yeah.
see if they can suck a dick in public, behind closed
Go-
doors. Hello?
And even that this whole thing started, I knew like Facebook memes. I was like, what? Like it just, and it was like snowballed. So
Yeah.
it was like literally like you were saying, there was no social media back when you
Right.
started out, so you didn't have to deal with that. Now it's
No.
it's
no.
almost like,
I mean, really, the blow up of social media has really come about in the last 10 years.
Oh,
Think
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Really, in the last 10 years. And then with everybody putting their 2 cents in and yet being able to say anything they want, there's no regulating anything like that. And they don't have to face the music for what they say because they can hide behind their computers. That started it.
yeah,
That started it. As you were saying, which thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I still get that, but now it's like, and maybe more so because of the current climate of the country itself. I get the side eye from some people. I see it, especially in Publix and places like that. But then you'll have one person that'll be like, And many times I have enjoyed that though, because the husbands are like, oh, you know what they're thinking.
yeah,
And meanwhile, I've been doing their wife's hair, so I run up immediately because I'm very good at sensing the vibe.
mm-hmm.
I can tell right away. So I'll make it a point to go out and be like, oh, girl, how are you? Look how fabulous your hair looks.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad it came out. And just flame out on purpose because I know he's ready for his head to blow off.
Well, yeah, I
And
mean,
he's looking for a way to run. You know?
yeah, I mean, if and if they're making you like, I don't know, like if he's going out of his way to make somebody else feel uncomfortable, why shouldn't he feel
Oh,
uncomfortable?
exactly.
You know, like fair game. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But for me, I got to say, I think because I kind of walk the line of it. I'm not trans. I have gone periods of time where I didn't dress or do drag or anything. I'd be like, oh, I'm done with it for a while. I mean, honestly, even like after Lacage, after all that and living in a fucking dress practically for 6 months, after being away from performing for 5 or 6 years in Ohio and was just working professionally, I was like, I've been there. I've done it. I did all that. I didn't want to go back to it for a long time. Then Lacage kind of restarted it
Right.
all over again. And by the time that was over, it was probably a good 3 or 4 years before I even put any costume on, even for Halloween. I wasn't doing shit. I was like, no, I've been dressing up all my life. I need a break from it. So I was always able to kind of go back and forth. It was never like, oh, I have to put some heels on or some shit.
Yeah.
It was like, no, I did all that when I was young. Because in those days, then it was like, if I went more than a week without getting dolled up,
Right.
I was like, oh, something's wrong. I feel out of place.
Yeah.
But that was when I was young.
Yeah.
It was age and a different time and all that stuff. But I never endured what these kids and the younger people are dealing with today, who unsure of themselves, possibly transgendered, all of that. I do. I feel for them, and it scares me for the gay community as a whole, and just people in general who don't fit the norm of what this society considers normal. And to me, nobody is friggin' normal.
Oh no, I mean, and there's so much going on and influences to everybody, and it's like it's such a weird.
I gotta say though, I say that that how I see it. Now maybe others don't see it that way, but social media perpetuates.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Perpetuates it and pushes the agendas down people's throat who normally would never even see it, know anything about it, or give a shit.
Yeah, and it's wild because it's not just it's not like what you see on there is the same thing I see. Like
Yeah.
they'll adapt
Interpret it.
Oh, and like,
a different
like
way.
I have friends who their Facebook feeds are full of one thing and then mine's a different, and it's like they're literally it's like it's encouraging behavior or whatever, and it's not. I mean, it's wild. Like
And the thing that I don't get these days is just that up to this point, if you didn't agree with something, whatever, it wasn't in your wheelhouse, anything that you saw or interpreted stuff in a way that you liked or appreciated for whatever reason, then you just said, well, that's not for me, and you lived your life and didn't give a shit. Now, if you don't fit this box that I'm in, then you're the enemy.
Yeah. Oh,
you're automatically an enemy, and you have to be relinquished. You have to be gone.
It's very tribalism.
Yeah,
like,
tribal.
Yeah, and
totally tribal. And it's like
sometimes the people go along with opinion. I've noticed they'll go along with opinion, either left or right, without even knowing anything about the subject matter. They're like, it's this way, and you're like, no, it's not really that way. If you just and you're like,
do a little background checking. Something I say all the time: we're all on our devices. It's just part of living.
Get a computer in your hand now.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm like, stop looking at cute cats on friggin' YouTube and actually Google a question.
Yeah,
learn something. That kind of thing. Everything that's happening now, especially with these drag bans, which has made me, I guess, in a sense, a target. Not that I give a shit. I'm like, take your best shot. You better, if you are going to shoot, you better take me out the first time, because if not, I'm coming back with a vengeance. It's one thing that doesn't scare me.
That's got to be, like I said, it's such.
I don't like that kind of confrontation, but if it's put in my face, I'm going to fight back. I've done that. Yeah. I've been that way all my life. I said there were two good things that sperm donor father of mine taught me as a kid, was how to fight and how to shoot a gun.
Well,
by the time I was 8, I was shooting sawed-off shotguns at shooting ranges, being blown off chairs and get up with tears in my eyes and do it again. I was like, fucking A, let's do it again. So that was really because my old man was,
That's all right. It's just the cord of the computer.
Yeah, but I don't want it to. Block out anything. So, I don't like that kind of confrontation, but I'm also one of those. I just think it's my nature. I won't back away from it either. Yeah. If I can avoid it, I will. Unlike certain situations that happened here a week ago, I would not directly get in somebody's face. Yeah. They would have to prompt me, provoke the situation to get me to respond that way.
I try to be, they call it like the warrior in a garden. Like I don't want to be violent or have any kind of, try to be peaceful, but yet, have the ability to take care of myself, because it's better to be that warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, for sure.
Exactly. And that's where I fear for the kids and everything. But at the same time, and some of my opinions are not going to sit well with the woke community, because unfortunately, I feel like a lot of this wokeness has been taken to an extreme as well, that is forcing people of different opinions, different lifestyles, different areas of where they live and come from, who have never had to experience this. It doesn't mean they have to. If they choose not to, that's their choice. It doesn't make them the enemy.
It used to be very much like, your household or your family or whatever, like you learn based off them, whatever. And now it's like there's the influences of, like you said, social media and everything. It's like,
it's dividing even within the home.
Yeah, people are almost like they're not just looking at themselves and being like, okay, this is what I think, this is what I feel. It's more like they're like, oh, I'm supposed to think this way and I'm supposed to feel this way.
And see, because come on, again, old school Southern parents. You know, my mother was from the city in West Virginia. My old man, born on and raised on a farm in the hollers of Roanoke,
Yeah.
Virginia.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that explained a lot. You know,
Yeah.
What the, you know, but still, I was a complete 180 of that. My sister always says, especially from my father's side, we had different fathers, obviously. But she's like, you like completely broke the mold of what your father's side and that lineage was, even though there were plenty of gays on my dad's side of the family.
Right.
But they were shunned and pushed away. But what's so scary now, even what I'm seeing and stuff I'm reading and have watched on YouTube on serious topics and what have you, is that even the so-called woke liberals are becoming the bullies.
You know, and it's
They're becoming the bullies because they are trying to force something that people don't understand and shove it down their throat, and you're supposed to accept me. Now, for an example, I'm not making this like across the board for everyone, but something I watched on YouTube, and these obviously appearing to be straight cis men were standing outside during a function at a college. I mean, let's face it, a lot of this is coming from the culture of the college age kids these days.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out, like, they're trying to figure out their lives.
But in the meantime, they're becoming the bullies and then trying to shove it down other people's throats. And like I watched this one thing was a short clip on this topic, and this guy, which you have every right to be, it's not something I would do, but these guys are standing around, and he is like probably 6'4", 280, 300 pounds, with a beard, big long hair, full face of makeup, with a beard and a dress and a purse.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing there screaming at these guys and then lunges at them, and they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now you're... And that's where that bully thing is coming in on the side that's supposed to be the understanding liberals and the woke people. And he's insisting to them that I'm a woman and you'll address me as such. Bitch, you got a beard. I ain't never seen a woman with a beard unless she's in the freak show. Hello?
Right.
But you get what I'm saying? And when you're in a public setting and you're walking around looking like that, that's your business. Hey, I'm an openly gay drag performer, and even I would go, oh, damn, girl, really? You know what I mean? That's just, you know, but to actually get angry, throw this hissy fit, and then lunge at these guys because all they see is a big old dude with makeup and a dress on, and you're telling them that they have to address you as a woman. No, they don't.
Yeah.
No, they don't. No, they don't. I don't agree with that. I don't. I know that's not a popular thing, but not when you're going to shove it down their throat. Now, I mean, if they're just passing by and they see you and they're like, hello, ma'am, because you are in a dress with a beard, whatever,
it's like
then fine.
Yeah, respect. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you're standing there arguing with these guys,
And normally, when you argue with someone anyway, you're never. Like, that's the other thing that blows my mind with all these things is like they'll be so loud and
Political.
angry and screaming about it. And you're like, no one's gonna listen to you when you're that
No.
way. Like, you
No.
gotta have a conversation.
no, and they're not going to accept you.
Yeah.
They're not. And what amazes me too, I mean, let's face it, a lot of this is simply because it's become political, whether we want it to or not in our everyday life.
Everything.
Because our own government can't sit down and have a peaceful conversation. It's a constant battle that you're wrong and we're right and you don't belong here anymore. And all of that is the trickle-down effect that is now affecting how people are behaving to each other in the world and in this country. And we're supposed to be protecting each other and fighting to keep the politics do your job, but stay out of our lives.
They run it like a business. Too.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. It's
Well,
not like,
let's face it, the great and powerful orange one brought that into play and created separation in the country because either you're a dirtbag or yeah, he's a good guy and all that bullshit because he agrees with you, and it set the precedence.
Yeah. Like that was like almost like a fad to be that asshole.
Yes.
Like it was like cool to be the asshole and be mean.
And what amazes me with that, also what I was learning during his reign of terror, during his, while he was
you're allowed to.
in office. But, hey, I'll give the devil its dues. There were some good things he did financially. And when it came to protecting our borders.
A showman. Like, he was a showman.
Well, a total.
Well,
he's a narcissistic showman. I mean, was a given.
Yeah.
It has been throughout his life. Right. But what got me, I guess, in a sense, that shocked me, was that after all the years leading up to him coming into office was the surprise that how many people really, truly felt that way also, like him, in their hearts, but they were hiding it. What you were saying earlier, that they would smile in your face and turn right around and stab you in the back as soon as you turned away from them, because they didn't like you or agree with your life. Also, add to, first I will say, in my family also, my brother's only daughter, him and his wife, they've been together forever. Terry, she had 2 children, and her oldest, who was born Trent, is now Jennifer.
Okay.
So they went through it when Trent was early teens, 12, 13. Now, all of us, especially my sister and I, we knew from the time she was small that there was absolutely nothing that she could connect when it came to anything masculine, anything. And unfortunately, he attempted suicide at a very young age. He was like 13, 14. Once they knew, then, and immediately, Terry, they saw psychiatrists, everything. They were like, your son's transgender. In his mind, he thinks he's a woman and doesn't understand why he has the genitalia he does. So from that point on, they were 100%, okay, this is it. Their younger son, he is the 180 polar opposite. He is masculine and played all the sports and did everything a typical cis male would do, and was 100% supportive of his sister, always there for her. So at that point, because of the psychological issues, everything, that's when they began homeschooling for her and allowed her to dress totally as a female, converted her bedroom. She even sent pictures when she did it all in lavender. As a matter of fact, I'll never forget, that was her color, purple. And but the point I'm getting at with this, she did everything the right way. She didn't even start hormone therapy until she was 17, and then you would have to, as a parent, sign it, to approve and say, yes, this is okay. And then by 1920, she had a little bit of breast work done, didn't need a lot. And by 21, 22, she had finished everything, was done with her surgery, and has been living as a woman ever since. She's in her early 30s. I worry about her every day in her life. But fortunately for Jennifer, even my sister says, my God, she's the most beautiful woman we have in the entire family. And it's true. Her father was Latin. Terry's very fair skin, icy blue eyes, and long blonde hair. So, but Jennifer definitely took from Daddy, got long hair down to the middle of her back, wavy, jet black, olive skin, green eyes, and she's like 5'8" and weighs 130 pounds wet.
So you're speaking on this, like you said, she's 30 now.
Yeah.
So like I've seen
it done in the right way.
Versus now, how you think
What-
it's done. It's different.
Some of the things that are happening, I know, again, this is an unpopular thing, and I do understand because I've had a family member experience this, go
Well,
through
yeah,
it.
and
We all did.
You're speaking on your experiences,
Right.
You know? So I mean, you're completely entitled to that.
Some of the people that are doing what they're doing with these hormone blockers and things on even preteen children is never going to have a normal life because they're not growing up developing normally,
Okay.
which is what they allowed her to do and find her way as she was moving along, so that by the time she was old enough to totally understand, this is who I'm going to be and supposed to be, then they did it the right way. So I really am on the fence on that because it does have to be broken down case by case.
Yeah, I do too. I agree with that. I think it's case by case.
case.
And also, I don't disagree. I feel like it's got to be a process. Like,
Yeah.
we live in a culture where everybody
You
wants
can't-
everything right now.
Because all of a sudden, Johnny saw a couple episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race, which she's being attacked, that they are grooming. Well, again, that's not the fucking government's decision to make. That's up to the parents.
Yeah.
Be a fucking parent for your kid.
Right. Be involved.
Be involved.
Yeah.
If they're gravitating to that, then try to be understanding and figure it out, or just say no. You're too young to be watching this yet. Period.
Right.
I personally don't have a problem with that because I'm older and was brought up in that way.
Yeah.
But some of these kids that are preteen, you don't know what that's going to do to them, even when they're older, where they've already been on these hormone blockers, where they cannot change back
Yeah.
or anything. Because let's face it, like I was saying, little Johnny saw 2 episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race. All of a sudden, he's putting on mommy's heels in a dress running around because he thinks it's the cool thing to do in the moment. Everybody else is doing it. Oh, well, that must mean my son's transgendered, so let's hurry and get him on hormone blockers. What? You know, again, to
Right.
me, that is lunacy. It is not reality. You are not thinking ahead. This child will, a month from now, he might want to be an astronaut, or a mermaid or some dumb shit. I mean, that's what kids do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So again, I know it's not a popular opinion, but I'm like, no. Not when they're before the age they should be. And that's why after witnessing it through the whole family supporting when Jennifer went through her transition and how her parents handled the whole situation was incredible. It really was. And unfortunately, many millions of trans throughout the years have had horrible situations, living on the streets, murdered constantly. And let's face it, black male to female trans are the most targeted. There have been more black female trans murdered in this country than almost anybody else. And it's horrible, and most of them have grown up on the streets and that's all they know. You know what I mean? And then had to do it the right way. The underground hormones and through the black market and doing all that bullshit.
Yeah.
And then many die at a young age because they were not able to get the proper health care to transition in a proper way. And it just disgusts me. It makes me sick and it breaks my heart to see this. And now that it's been thrusted into the center of everything, is just insane in this country. And especially then you factor in now this whole drag ban bills, which to some degree, I can agree on certain aspects of it. Yes, I mean, hey, I've done it. Being a drag performer, that's part of it. You're selling sexuality. The 2 things that old-time drag queens will tell you, who has performed in clubs most of their career, will say there's 2 things the owners of that club expect: sell sex and liquor. That's
Right.
what you're here for.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're trying to make some money. I mean,
Exactly. You're selling sex on stage and liquor. That's what you're here for. I worked for many. Hell, the last club that I worked at, I was part of the house cast and then would bartend on Saturday nights in full drag. Honey, I could pay my rent in those days. In one weekend. I'm telling you. And this was a big warehouse club. On a slow night was 1,200 people. I mean, see, that's just how it was then. So I was always fully dressed. Flats, of course, because I was behind the bar. But everything else was done. Slinging liquor all night long and walk out with $800, $1,000,
Right.
on a weekend. And then was part of the house cast and would do shows 2 nights a week. And we rotated the girls and all that. So being a part of that, I mean, that's what you're facilitating. That's what you're pushing. That's what that part of it is about. Your own personal journey, that's up to you.
Right.
That's up to you. And I was fortunate too that at least my family was supportive. Not everybody gets that. That I knew many people from back in Cleveland who had grew up on the streets. Their parents, their families totally turned their backs on them, and they're still doing it. That's what amazes me, which is so frightening for the young kids today. And then the bullying, and I mean, yes, there's always been suicides and stuff throughout all the years I've heard of it and stuff, all of that, but not to the level and where it's at now. No. And again, that goes back to the bullying and everything that these kids are experiencing on that right there.
Yeah.
Through social media. It's frightening. Beyond that, what scares me more than anything now at my age, because I read that older gay people, once you hit that point where, say, the rest of your family has died off, and you're in your 70s or 80s, and you can no longer work, but you may have to be in, say, a nursing home or a living facility. And the gay people in those facilities are targeted by the nurses, the staff, all of that. And many times, statistically, they're the first ones to die out of those places because they do not take care of them.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, look it up.
That's
look it
sad.
Up. They don't take care of them because of their own personal beliefs. And now that you're an old man or an old woman, old lesbian, or an old gay man, that you can't stand up and defend yourself, they're like, good, fuck you. You don't deserve to live anyway. And they leave you to die. Oh, yeah. It's sad. So those little things is stuff that scares me as I'm now on, in my 60s, and I'm hoping I have another good 20 years. You know what I'm saying? At least if I can make it to 80, bitch, you did it. You did what you were supposed to do. What you were put on this earth for, you did it. So that's how I look at it. But it scares me. Will I be able to survive through whatever along that way? The next last portion of my life. I mean,
and especially now, like you.
Yeah, because somebody like me, they would be like, no, that one's out to pasture. It's done,
I mean, I don't. Maybe it's a business we should start as like just a retirement home just for.
Yeah, and there are some. I mean, of course, if you go to California, any of the blue states, you're going to find that.
But not everybody can be in a blue state, and it's back to like where I grew up. There's a lot of people that are there who've been there their entire lives. Their families have been there, and it's
and that's a hard thing. That mindset. I'll tell you, a great show to watch that I think they're about to premiere their 4th season. It's an HBO special that when they air them, it's like a weekly thing. They get like 8 or 10 shows. They're on their 4th season, and it's called We're Here. And it stars 3 of very well-known competitors, again, from RuPaul's Drag Race. It's Shangela, Bob the Drag Queen, who won his season from New York City, and Eureka O'Hara, which is like 3 of my size, literally, and she's from Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah, big old country gal. But what they do is the 3 of them, I mean, now they have a full cast. This
Right.
is HBO that's
Yeah.
filming it, everything. So you know they're safe. But they each have their own bus and they go to these little small towns throughout the entire country. And HBO picks the towns. They come into these towns. They step off their buses. They're in full drag. And then they recruit each one of the girls gets someone from that town who identifies different from the norm of the
Okay.
town. And then they put on a fully realized drag performance, and each one of the girls perform with the person assigned to them. And then the whole town is invited to come, and in every segment, there are protesters, there are spies coming in and taking pictures and then putting it on
Oh, yeah.
Facebook. And oh my God, the demons have arrived, and all of that. And the whole purpose is to show that it's about love when it comes down to it in the bottom line. That's what we're here for,
Yeah.
to show that just because
Yeah.
we dress and identify in this way professionally doesn't make us any less of a human or any less loving or understanding to whatever your
Yeah.
lifestyle is.
Yeah.
And it's a great show, and they're going on their 4th season. It will kick off in the fall on HBO, so look for it.
Have to look for that.
And that is, I'm telling you, I watched, I got to watch it get choked up because I can
Uh-huh.
remember some of the segments that just broke my heart. And the girls, while they were dealing with these people as they meet them, they come to their house. They're not dressed, but I do love when they arrive, they're always right in the center of town. When they step off their buses, fully in giant, outrageous costumes and fully done up, and they'll walk around and meet and greet with people, but you'll see people running.
Clenching their Bibles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And pointing and freaking out. So it's great. It's definitely a worth-see show. I think it's one of the best representations of something positive that has been so far been put out there for the people to see in the media. And especially, hey, thumbs up to HBO for even creating a show like this and taking 3 of the most popular bitches from Drag Race and giving them the venue to make them celebrities in a whole different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's weird, like I said, growing up in the South, that a lot of it is religion based.
Oh, sure, it
and
all is.
And when you break it down, it's funny to me that so everyone based a lot of their lives on religion. At the same time, they'll turn around and Greek mythology. Oh, that's not real. It's fake. It's all made up. But they're literally doing.
But
the same.
something a man wrote about someone.
They're following it hardcore. Basically, it's like it's religion.
It still was, but let's face it. Throughout the history of this planet, that has been the ultimate fight. Wars, everything in every part of the world, and it's still happening. It's worse now than ever.
Yeah.
But when you come back to the Christians of this country, and especially the Baptists and all that stuff, who are really
Deep
hey,
Southern
my mother.
Baptist,
Let me tell you, my mom was raised deep Southern Baptist, but by the time she was old enough in her teens, she said, I felt the same way when I was young enough to even understand and would ask questions. She said, I'm going to leave that up to you.
Yeah.
You will choose that for yourself when you're older to make that decision, what you believe, what you don't believe, and what you choose to follow. Amazingly, I'm that much like her because, for one, here we go, I don't believe in organized religion.
Right.
To me, it's cultist.
Oh, I mean,
It can very well, I'm not saying all, I'm just saying that there are some that it can become like that that you have to do this, or that's it, you're going to hell, don't bother, and all of that. There's a cult like feel to it, and at the same time, the pastors, the priests, whoever, whatever you are of that church, meanwhile, look how they're living.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Beautiful homes, beautiful cars, all that stuff. They're making their money selling you a product.
Yeah, selling you a belief. And
they are no more than a salesman. That's all they are. They're a salesman. And I think religion is great if it is used in the right way, if it's done in the right way. And the bottom line I can say to that is, one thing, see, I did read the Bible in my older teens because I wanted to see, well, what the hell is this all about?
Yeah.
And what I could interpret the most of from it, the one thing that always sticks with me is, if you are truly a Christian, then you are expected to accept everyone, no matter what. Just because they don't believe in what you do or don't live their lives in the way you choose to, does not make them a bad person or any less loved by God. Bottom line. So why are you, shunning someone or putting them down or just dismissing them simply because they don't fit the criteria of what? That's not what I remember reading in the Bible. I mean, didn't he even say, love your enemies? Love your enemies. Have empathy for them.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And now it's like, oh, well, if you ain't this, oh, well, you're Satan, and that's all there is to it. And in the meantime, if they don't like you and you say something they don't like, they'll shoot you. But it was all in the name of being a Christian and God. So I'm like, I don't get that. Yeah. And how politics and religion have always been hand in hand. But it's more prevalent and in our face now than it ever was, and that's the immediate go back to.
Yeah, it is.
And as I recall in different documents of this country, when it was founded, was simply the fact that there is to be a separation of church and state.
Yeah.
Church has nothing to do with politics. So it shouldn't. But they use it as leverage on people.
And back to my point, it's something that's like, in history and in psychology, you're taught about different mythology. And it's a mythology. Christianity is a mythology. It's not, and it's like
it's an interpretation.
Yeah, and they're basing rules and regulation on something that's a mythology.
Right.
Not even grounded in
facts.
And that's what blows my mind. Is like, how?
Well, again, going back to watching stuff on YouTube, I have seen stuff on this topic of Christianity and everything and religion in this country. And I have seen people asking Christians, well, where's the proof?
Yeah.
Show me the proof. Prove to me that this is real. And then I can say, okay, I'm on board.
And I completely.
But don't just try to shove it down my throat, because again, it goes back to the bullying. It's just a different topic, but it ends up being in the same realm of the woke people becoming the bullies to force people to believe what they believe in.
Like, I have no problem with somebody believing in some type of religion.
Yeah, I think it's great.
But you have to also admit to yourself it's a belief. Like,
it's a belief.
You're doing this to give yourself drive or some type of meaning.
Right. And
that's what it is.
Hey, I even, will say a prayer. One thing, I've never been on board for organized religion of any kind. I don't buy into it, but that's my choice. I do believe there's a higher power. Oh, yeah. I think we're all here for a reason. I'm spiritual, but I don't believe in you have to follow this, that, or listen to what some strange man in a pulpit says.
Just be good.
I just don't.
Just be a good person because you want to be a good person. Like, the fact you're like, if I'm not good, I go to hell. To me, that doesn't. You're not. That doesn't even make you a good person. You're only doing that to keep from negative happening to you.
Right.
Like, why not just be good because you want to be a good person?
Because you want to be a good person, but those who want to drive it, I mean, I'm sorry. The image it keeps popping in my head, so I know you guys will be like, well, of course that bitch would think that way. But Carrie, the movie Carrie,
Yeah.
the mother,
Yeah.
what was the first sin, woman? Say it.
Yeah.
You know, and hitting her with
Yeah.
the Bible. I mean, that
Yeah.
was fucking nuts. But of course, it was a Stephen King horror movie. But there are people who have done that very thing
Oh, yeah.
throughout history and still do.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's insane. And again, it goes back to the bullying and shoving it down somebody's throat when they're not even prepared or understand what the hell you're talking about.
Exactly.
You know, but I was just picturing that scene. I know.
All right.
And it's not funny. It's horrible. Poor Carrie. But you know what I
Oh.
mean? And it was intended for that.
Yeah.
To find the humor in the ridiculousness
Yeah.
of it all.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna have to wrap it up.
All right.
We're running
Sounds
out of time
great. This
soon.
has been amazing. I've
It's-
really enjoyed this.
It's
This
been
has
fun.
been fun.
And I will definitely have you back. We'll do this again.
Oh, definitely. I want a group session
Yeah.
so we can all go at it. And
Yeah.
beat each other with Bibles and scream, what was the first sin, woman? Say it!
The little red rain coming down.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
well, thank you so much, Lee.
Thank you.
This has been a pleasure. I'm
and
so glad I did it.
I'm honored that you did this as my first one, just as it was my first play. And my
Ah.
first on-stage kiss was you.
Oh,
So
I feel so privileged. That was cute. Yeah, he said that a couple times. I was like, oh, that's cute. And my first on-stage kiss was with John Hunt. And we did full on. Well, a couple times throughout the show, and I can remember a few people in the audience like, oh, clutch the pearls. I'm like, yes, I know. We're going to hell, honey. Well, guess what? Throw another log on the fire, honey, because we're all going to be there. Only I'll be the MC at the show.
all right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.